everybody, Ancestradum here. The video that I'm recording today is part of a follow-up video I wanted to make to a video that I recently did on how to address symptoms of indigestion, in particular symptoms such as gas, bloating, feeling pressure up in your throat, feeling like when you've eaten an hour ago, the food is just sitting there and it doesn't seem to be going anywhere. And what's worse, it feels like maybe it's fermenting and it's pressing up into your throat. You might be experiencing gas, more in the upward direction, burping, quite intense discomfort. For those types of symptoms, I talked about using apple cider vinegar as a way to naturally relieve or even resolve the symptoms, but there was a caveat. And the caveat was that if you are experiencing symptoms more in the realm of heartburn, so that would be symptoms like a slight stabbing sensation. People sometimes describe it as my husband tends to experience heartburn more often. I don't tend to experience it. I have when I was pregnant, but generally my symptoms are in the different direction. Another symptom that I sometimes hear people explaining or describing as a burning in the chest area. If you're experiencing those symptoms, I would rather say that you use a different method, and it's actually the opposite method. Nothing bad is going to happen to you if you take the one over the other. However, it might not work, and also it could exacerbate the symptoms, at least temporarily. For each of these natural treatments or options, whatever you want to call them, there is a remedy if you take it, and it actually seems to exacerbate your symptoms, but it is by no means dangerous, so don't be concerned about that. So if you are one of those people who are potentially experiencing symptoms of indigestion, but you're also experiencing symptoms more in the realm of this burning, stabbing sensation somewhere up here perhaps, or maybe even a little bit lower down in your stomach area, I have to get onto my tippy toes there, then this video is for you. So if you're experiencing this, I want you to step away from the apple cider vinegar. The worst thing that can happen if you do take apple cider vinegar is that you might experience increased sensation of the symptoms, which is not what you want. If you have already taken apple cider vinegar because you watched the previous video and your symptoms did become enhanced, or perhaps even your throat was burning, you might have heard me say in that video, and I will repeat that now, that you can take a little bit of baking soda and water and that will remedy that burn. And that is actually the natural remedy that I'm going to be talking about today, or natural tool. I do want to remind you that it is useful not to get too focused on the idea of a remedy and this terminology, because it can be discouraging if you don't experience something that you would class as a remedy. But really, what you want is some form of a relief, at least enough relief to maintain your quality of life. And so that is what we're aiming for here, at least when we are looking for a quick fix, which there usually isn't, but if there was going to be any, this probably would be it. So the option that you have here is to grab a glass, ready to go. Grab a tablespoon. In my case, I've got a teaspoon, so I'm going to measure it out 3 times. And then grab baking soda. I have this humongous, really handy glass jar that I got from leftover pickles. The pickles weren't great, but the jar is amazing. So I've got this baking soda. And the reason that we turn to baking soda in this instance is because if you're experiencing burning, then the last thing that you want to do is introduce more burning if you're already displaying sensitivity, it might be indicating that there's been a compromise or wearing away of that mucosal lining in your stomach. And so there's contact happening between the hydrochloric acid in your stomach and the muscle lining of the stomach. And that's what you're feeling, because normally you shouldn't be feeling anything. And so if you are wanting instant relief, and you're not worried so much right now about being able to digest your food in the long term, then we are going to turn to baking soda to help neutralize and just bring down the acidity, to kind of lower the acidity that you seem to be experiencing the results of in your stomach. So note that I'm not saying that your stomach is too acidic, not at all. But what I'm saying is there's some kind of a compromise or robustness that has been lost in your digestive system, in your stomach, and in your throat, and in that mucosal lining along the digestive tract that is allowing you to feel the sensation of burning, which you shouldn't normally be able to feel. It's a signal that something is going on and you want to be paying attention. But regardless, right now, we just want a bit of a quick fix. So what you're going to do is you're going to grab your baking soda. Now, if you're concerned about baking soda having aluminium in it, don't be. This is a little bit of a mislabeling situation. Baking powder can have aluminium in it. Baking soda doesn't. Baking soda is purely bicarbonate soda. It comes from soda ash. As far as I understand, it is 100% pure product. It can be made by synthetic means or naturally obtained, but it is just bicarbonate soda. There's no aluminium in it. The reason I suspect that companies have started to label baking soda as aluminium free is because they get a lot of calls around whether their products have aluminium in it or not, because baking powder can have aluminium in it because it can be an aluminium based acidifier that is used for that leavening process. But baking powder have multiple components. Baking soda is just a single component. So don't be concerned about aluminium, which, I mean, you certainly don't want to be ingesting it, but you don't have to be concerned about the fact that you're going to be ingesting baking soda. It's completely safe. You're only going to have a small amount. And in fact, the body produces baking soda. Your saliva has bicarbonate soda in it. It is what helps to keep the mouth a little bit alkaline, or alkaline enough, so that your teeth aren't basically falling out of your head and rotting away. And to keep that bacterial environment, more or less balanced in there. So, the steps. You want to measure out 1 tablespoon, or in my case, 3 teaspoons of baking soda, and mix it with about half a cup of room temperature water. As usual, don't go for cold water. You always want it to be body temperature, because otherwise your body is going to have to exert energy to warm up the water. It's probably not going to feel good on your stomach, and it's going to sit. It's just going to be another thing that's sitting there in your stomach. So and there you go. Down this glass, stir it in, let it dissolve really well. My baking soda is quite unrefined, so it's quite grainy, so it's going to take a little while to dissolve, but yours will probably dissolve rather quickly. This is actually probably a little bit too much water, to be honest. I didn't really pay much attention there when I was doing that, clearly. And so, yeah, you only need half a cup of water, not too much. What I want you to do is ingest the whole cup of water and just notice what happens. Notice the sensations of it going down, hitting your stomach. What are you noticing? A few things might happen. You might start to burp quite a bit, which is a symptom of the contact of the hydrochloric acid in your stomach meeting the bicarb, and it creates gas. That's just biology, science. And so don't be alarmed if you start burping. But the likelihood is you probably won't start burping, because what might actually be happening is that your stomach acidity is not the level it should be. It's not high enough or low enough on the pH spectrum, and so you might not have any burping. you should actually be experiencing burping, but that's a different video. So some people find immediate relief, but within the next 10 minutes at least, I would hope you start to notice some relief. If you don't achieve any relief, you can wait about 40 minutes to an hour. It just depends on how full your stomach already was, because you don't want to overload it with something. And try another glass. If it really had no effect, then this might not be the solution for you. But it always works for my husband. It never works for me. We would both say that we've got indigestion, and yet our symptoms are different, and the things that tend to work for us are also different. So I have learned with time, baking soda, this does not work for my typical symptoms of indigestion, but it is perfect for him. It is pretty much always self-inflicted, following a meal high in fat or high kind of a soda, sugary drink, or sometimes it's a lot of coffee. He always says, "That's burning." He seems to forget every single time. I always say the same thing. Go and drink a little bit of baking soda water, and I won't hear anything else, and about an hour later or half an hour later I'll go, is it gone? Is the indigestion gone? Is the pain gone? Oh yeah, the pain's gone. So I hope that this remedy is a hit for you. One thing I might say is that if you are feeling quite uncomfortable, and in addition to the heartburn sensations, you are feeling quite distended, quite bloated, quite uncomfortable, and quite full, I would even take less water, and I would definitely make sure that the water is maybe even a little bit lukewarm. Always remember that knowledge is power, and the power sits within you. I'm only here to act as a guide and to unlock the potential that is already residing within you, within all of us. We are the ones that can make the change in our own health journey, and only we can do that. So with that said, here is to hope and possibility. And I probably need to take a little sip, because I can't make you drink this and not have some myself. Not lie. I won't lie. It's not good. It tastes like you're drinking soap. Be prepared. Health often does not taste good. Unfortunately, it can, but quite often the remedies, they suck. They don't taste great, and you just have to. That's another reframe. That is another thing. You have to change the way you think about it, and stop expecting it to be good. Stop demanding things to taste good. Stop demanding or needing being healthy and getting better to be so palatable, and just accept that it's not, and move on to the next thing. Don't get hung up on this one really insignificant factor. It's a great meditation practice, come to think of it, because I don't know if you've ever tried to meditate. It's not easy. If you try to meditate with a mosquito buzzing around you, or with a pain in your back, or noise in the background, it's not easy. This is a different type of meditation where you try and focus on the healing effects, the healing magic of what you're doing and what you're ingesting, and see if you can only focus on that, and not even get hung up on the thoughts of how disgusting. I mean, it's not that, okay, it's not that great, it's not that bad. Let's not use the word disgusting, okay? I'll walk that back. Don't get hung up on how bad it tastes and how unpleasant it is, because you'll get sucked into that, and it will make things a lot harder. And see if you can notice it. Interesting, that tastes pretty bad. And then we let it go. We move on with life. So, very healing. Cheers.